It's happened again. Bernie Sanders rally disrupted by protesters. This time, apparently, they support him and then ripped their shirts off and poured some kind of fluid on them. It wasn't milk, but I have no idea what they were protesting because, typically you don't. But it's not the first time this has happened to Bernie Sanders. You may remember back when the Black Lives Matter protesters got on stage, took the microphone away, and now there's that very sad photo of Bernie with his head down, just not very strong on Bernie's part. Well, I will be fair and say Bernie learned his lesson because this time when the protester jumped up saying, "I love you, Bernie," but in your glorious Kanye West moment, he said no and wouldn't give her the microphone. But then she grabbed the other one anyway. And then Bernie just relents and lets them do their things. Ladies, no means no. If Mr. Sanders doesn't want to give it up, don't take it from him. But of course, the protesters don't seem to realize they're hurting the candidate they claim to support. But you know what, Bernie? You reap what you sow. You've had every opportunity to denounce these people, to call them out and say, stop doing this. And you haven't done it. Why? Apparently your spine is missing. Joe Biden at least has a spine. In fact, Joe Biden snaps at people too much. He's told multiple people not to vote for him because he didn't like the questions he was asked. And there was that one moment where a reporter asked him about his son and he started yelling at him. And he's like, "Why are you nervous, man? Why are you nervous?" At least Joe Biden gets angry. You can't, how are you supposed to have a president who's on stage and a young woman comes up and just takes the microphone from you? I'm sure that's going to strike fear into the hearts of all of America's enemies and show that you are the right choice. I'm pretty sure Americans are going to see that and say, not only is this a 78-year-old socialist who just had a heart attack, he can't stop a small woman from taking the microphone from him, and he walks away now for the second time. Of course, Biden and Bloomberg are taking the opportunity to go after Bernie's supporters because there's too many of them that are unhinged. Sorry, it's true. Project Veritas did the expose. We all heard what Bernie's own staff members had to say. So you know what, Bernie? You reap what you sow. You have every opportunity to come out and condemn and denounce this stuff, and you don't do it. So what happens? Young women come and shut your stage down. They get up on stage topless, splashing drinks on themselves, muttering. No one can hear them because apparently these people don't understand how microphones work. The one woman who took the microphone apparently did. But the women who have some writing on their chest, I'm like, I don't know what you're doing. I have no idea what you're protesting. You're mad that people drink milk, the dairy industry. You realize 99% of Americans like milk and cheese. Americans love cheese. We put cheese on everything. And it's not a popular position. I get it. You don't like the dairy industry. Do you think Bernie Sanders is going to win the presidency on the platform of end dairy? No, most people are going to be like, but I like my cheese. Well, let's read these stories. I got a couple. This first one is about the protests, but now Joe Biden and Bloomberg are coming after Bernie because his supporters are nuts. The Hill reports. Senator Bernie Sanders was interrupted by anti-dairy industry protesters at a presidential campaign rally in Nevada on Sunday. Quote, "Bernie, I'm your biggest supporter, and I'm here to ask you to stop propping up the dairy industry and stop propping up animal agriculture," one protester, Priya Sawhney, said after taking the microphone from Sanders. I couldn't help but think, what would Donald Trump do if someone did this at his rally? And I'm going to be completely honest. I can just imagine Trump just pushing them off the stage and them falling face first to the floor and him being like, "Don't come on my stage. Don't take my microphone. No, excuse me, shove right to the floor." Donald Trump would one of the funniest things about Trump in his debate with Hillary Clinton is that when she would try and interject during his statements, he'd be like, excuse me, don't interrupt. But then as soon as she would talk, he'd be like, wrong, and just cut her off. Because apparently he doesn't give what he expects in return. But hey, a lot of people like him for that. He's a tough guy. He's a bully. So you think someone's going to go up on his stage and take his mic? No, he'd probably just push him right off the stage. They fall down, break their arm or something. And he's like, well, you shouldn't have come on my stage. Don't come on my stage. Anyway, let's read. Sawhney was part of a demonstration by the animal rights network Direct Action Everywhere. 3 other topless women also crashed the stage with the words "Let Dairy Die" written on their chests before pouring milk cartons full of fake blood on themselves. The women who were topless were arrested for indecent exposure and are held on $2,500 bond each, according to Direct Action Everywhere. Okay, no, hold on. I do not believe the women should have been arrested on indecent exposure. They're just topless. That's stupid. They can disorderly conduct, trespassing, whatever. But come on, man. Sawney was not arrested, the group said. If Bernie truly cares about justice, he will stop propping up the dairy industry, which relies on the abuse of female cows, Sawney said in a statement shared by Direct Action Everywhere. I love Bernie, but we must hold abusive industries accountable, not shield and subsidize them. Animal farming is an industry which gives welfare payments to millionaires. People are fed up. Like the Sanders campaign itself, animal rights is a burgeoning mass movement. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. Oh, wait, hold on. I'm sorry. Animal rights is a big movement. A lot of people care about the ethical treatment of animals, not that PETA stuff. I mean, like actual. So you end up seeing people preferring organic for health reasons or free range or happy cows because happy cows make happy milk, they say. They go on to say a spokesperson for the Sanders campaign was not immediately available for comment. Let me tell you something. I went to dairy farms in California, and I will attest that in California, cows are happy. One of the things that really surprised me about the dairy industry, out there at least, because not everywhere, it can be bad in a lot of places. There were two things that really surprised me because I've heard so much about the dairy industry. First, the cows were not caged in at all. Like the cows could literally leave. I'm not kidding. There was nothing stopping them from just leaving. And I asked the farmer, I was like, I couldn't help but realize this is open. The cows are just walking around and some are across the street. And the farmer's like, yep. And I'm like, but what if they leave? And he's like, why would they? And I was like, I don't know, freedom? And he was like, no, they got food and they're happy here. And I'm like, I didn't realize that. In fact, every farm we went to was the same. The cows would just do whatever they wanted. And so I was actually surprised to find these cows don't have to be there. They want to be there. And the other thing, too, is the milking stations were automatic. At least one of the ones I saw. And he said basically when the cows need to be milked because they want to be, they walk into the machine, it milks them, and they walk out and they're happy. And the food comes out and they eat it and they're happy. Now, that's not true for all of the dairy industry. A lot of the farms in California, at least the ones I went to at least, were the more like organic family farms and stuff. I've driven through, I think it was Texas, and I've seen some horrifying dairy farms, just like mud everywhere, and they are caged in because the conditions there are terrible. But I think the important thing I'm trying to point out is these people don't know what they're talking about. They see some stupid film like Food Inc. or something, and then they're like, everything is bad, everything is awful, and it's like, whoa, chill, hold on. We can make these changes. We want healthy, we want the animals to be better off. But they don't know what they're talking about. They just get on stage and start screeching. And then Bernie Sanders gets to reap what he has sown because he refuses to condemn this stuff. I'd disown them. Biden slams Bernie Sanders for downplaying his supporters. Quote, vicious, misogynistic online attacks on Las Vegas union leaders who declined to endorse any Democrat ahead of Nevada caucuses. Now this, you know what, man? There was a point where I would say the Bernie Bros smear was a lie. At this point, though, I think, it's kind of come to fruition. Here, listen. In 2016, they tried claiming that people on Twitter being mean was like misogyny. And we've heard that all the time. Sorry, dude, getting criticized on the internet is not hate speech or misogyny. Calm down. The poor, delicate sensibilities of these New York establishment journalists going, oh, well, I never, because some, working class socialist type person or whatever said a mean word to them is laughable. But now we can see they're going after union members, and yeah, they are getting pretty nasty, especially with the Veritas expose. You can see what kind of people, these are. But the union was doxxed. Like private information was being released, and they were getting harassed, and other people had to call this out. And Bernie himself said something quite pathetic, calling on all supporters of all campaigns not to do this. And it's like, dude, there's no Buddha bros going out and harassing union members. That's your people. Buttigieg isn't courting the far left extremists like your campaign is and refusing to denounce. Now, I'd like to see more campaigns come out and denounce the extremists. At least Joe Biden is slamming Bernie's supporters, saying, I'd disown them. How is it that Joe Biden, the guy whose teeth keep falling out, he doesn't know where he is half the time, and he's got a bigger spine than Bernie does. Look, I don't know what you expect to happen, but the commander-in-chief of the president, It's the commander in chief. They're in charge of the armed forces. You think Bernie Sanders is the right person for this job? I'm sorry. What you're really looking for to get your policies passed is not a president. It's the Senate and Congress. Now, I understand getting the president means the courts. And so it's a very important position for a progressive, leader to hold if you want to get these, bills passed. But if you focus on the Senate and the Congress, you don't have to worry about what the president can or can't do. And let's be real. Even Ocasio-Cortez says a Bernie Sanders presidency isn't going to get Medicare for all done. Ocasio-Cortez just said, like the other day, we'll probably end up with a public option. Oh, really? Because it's exactly what Obama said. He said in the first year, we will have universal health care. Then he said, we'll go for a public option. And then what did we get? The involuntary mandate. It didn't work. You couldn't get it done. The president doesn't have that kind of power. The president does set policy on trade, foreign policy, etc. All these things, very important. But they're the commander in chief. And so I think it's fair to criticize Trump for being, not wanting to take advice from the intelligence agencies or from his generals. Fine. But at least he's got a spine. Like I said, I could imagine someone going up on Trump's stage, grabbing the microphone, and then Trump just socking them in the face or just shoving them off the stage. And Trump's a big dude. Did you ever see that clip of where someone tries to rush the stage and Trump spins around all fast? He didn't react all slow about it like Bernie, and then Bernie looks away and then goes, no, and then loses. Trump had a fast reaction. I'm not going to pretend like Trump was going to fight anybody in that circumstance because he had Secret Service with him. But his reaction was not the same as Bernie Sanders, not at all. So now we have the story from The Hill, which is now starting to address the Bernie bros. Will Bernie have to turn on his bros? You know what? A lot of Bernie people on Twitter have said it's a myth, it's a lie, it's a smear. And in 2016, yeah, maybe. Today, not so much. It's gotten bad. It has. I mean, going after the union, you can't really deny it anymore. That's crossing the line from I'm not going to defend you because someone's being mean to you on Twitter. But if someone's digging up your private information and harassing you, union members, we're not talking about corporate fat cat bigwigs and billionaires. We're talking about regular working class people who are trying to protect their health care, getting stalked, harassed, and doxxed by people who want Bernie Sanders. I'll tell you what, man. You look at what the Veritas videos exposed. They're talking about camps. These people, go read about the French Revolution. Robespierre didn't care who you were. He was off with their heads no matter what. It was paranoid delusions. You threaten the revolution, they come for you. That includes union members. This is why people don't like socialism, because it's an instant monopolization of power to the government. Now you get all these lefties saying socialism's not bad because, everyone shares. No, stop. You're talking about rapid centralization of all power into the hands of a tiny percentage. We don't like monopolies. It doesn't matter if your organization is a corporation or a government. They're just organizations that function in a certain way. And I'll tell you what, the government's worse with centralization because they have a monopoly on violence. Corporate entities in the United States don't send armed SWAT teams for the most part. I'm sure some do somewhere, whatever. They have private security. But there are laws. So if the government gets all the power over industry and then starts centralizing everything and taking things away from you, and they have guns, you've now centralized physical violence along with economic resources into one group of small people instantly. And we know that that's not a good thing. And that's what always happens. Your utopian ideals don't exist. Here's what I really think. These far left extremists that are standing behind Bernie don't care who he is. It's more about what he represents. He's demanding socialism. They want that in. But these people want power. That's what I really, really believe. They are whiny, lazy people who haven't done any work, and they want power the easiest way possible. I can't blame them. Hey, if you didn't have to do any work and you got free stuff, sounds great, doesn't it? There's a funny meme going around. It's a photograph of the sidewalk. There's snow everywhere, and the sidewalk is shoveled. Then there's a sidewalk that isn't shoveled, and then after it's shoveled again. And lo and behold, the person who didn't shovel their sidewalk has a Bernie Sanders sign. And someone posted it saying it's a great metaphor for Sanders' campaign. Don't do the work, expect someone else to do it for you. These people don't seem to understand that things have to be made. And that's partly Bernie's fault. When he says things like healthcare is a human right, literally makes no sense. Healthcare is technologically based. It scales with the development and research from human beings, and somebody has to do the work. Imagine if someone said, like having a waiter is a human right. I know they're very different, but the point is you're talking about human labor. You have no right to someone else's labor. It's impossible. You can't mandate someone do the job. And I'll put it this way. If they really felt healthcare was a human right, what happens when all the doctors and nurses quit? Now there's no doctors. Or I'll put it this way. You're in the middle of the woods. You can freely move around. You can pick up a stick and defend yourself. You can say whatever you want. But you can't get a doctor, can you? So you can walk around the woods screaming, spitting, and yelling all the racist nonsense. Hey, that's your freedom of speech. You're walking around. You got a freedom of movement. You can defend yourself. You got right to self-defense. And then when you fall down and get a gash on your leg, scream and cry all you want for the human right of healthcare, and nobody is coming. And even if someone does, what are you going to do to make them give you healthcare? Demand it's your human right they help you? What if they say no? Point your pointy stick in their direction. And now you get it. It's not a human right. You can't force someone else to do something. You have to incentivize the behavior through fair trade. And, what they're proposing is incentivization through money by taxing people, taking that money and paying people. The problem is you can argue that right now the system is large enough to tax everyone, their resources, and then pay for healthcare, but that's still not a human right. You're still paying for it. You're just forcing people to pay for it. So anyway, I'll wrap this up. Bernie lacks the strength. I can respect that he at least tried this time and said no, but he couldn't stop a small woman from taking his microphone away. When she came up on the stage and reached for his mic, Bernie turns away from her, doesn't look at her and says no, and starts walking away. Why? Get in her way. He let her take that microphone and then started saying stupid whatever, and topless women splash fake blood on themselves. How insane. Could you imagine a presidency with Bernie Sanders and he's giving an address to the nation and a bunch of random kids run up, shove him out of the way and start ranting about nonsense? This isn't the first time it's happened. You can't have it. I get it. If he gets Secret Service protection, this won't happen again. But I think it shows to Bernie's character that he can't stop a small woman from taking his microphone away when he says no. Look, the first time he gave up the stage, you can argue he was trying to be polite to activists. This time, he literally said no, and he tried stopping her, and he couldn't do it. Bernie Sanders could not stop a small woman from taking the mic from him when he tried to stop her. That is not someone who's strong enough to be president. I'll leave it there. Stick around. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel, and I will see you all then.